Meadow Arts, a nonprofit art organization located in Twisp, Washington. And today we are going to make Georgia O'Keeffe inspired flowers. And what you will need for this project is some oil pastels and black pieces of construction paper. If you happen to have flowers nearby or maybe outside that you can collect, I'd also suggest grabbing a flower or two as well for inspiration. So go ahead and pause this video, gather all of your supplies, and then when you have the supplies in front of you, go ahead and press play. All right, before we get started on our art project today, let's learn a little bit more about Georgia O'Keeffe. Georgia O'Keeffe was born in 1887 in Sun Prairie, Wisconsin, and she eventually ended up going to the Art Institute of Chicago, as well as she studied at the Art Students League of New York. And from there, she became a pretty famous artist during the 1920s and eventually became known as the mother of modernism. And she's most well known for her flowers, or for her paintings of flowers and the cityscapes of New York, as well as the landscape of New Mexico. And going back to her paintings of flowers, which she is really well known for, the reason why she wanted to paint those very large paintings of flowers is because she wanted people to stop and take the time to notice small things like flowers, because when she was in New York, she noticed that everyone was very busy and rushing by and not taking time to notice some of these small things. And so she thought, well, if I paint flowers big, then people are kind of forced to take the time to notice things like flowers. And so I'm going to read this quote from Georgia O'Keeffe, and she says, "When you take a flower in your hand and really look at it, it's your world for the moment. I want to give that world to someone else. Most people in the city rush around, so they have no time to look at a flower. I want them to see it, whether they want to or not." So with that, we can go ahead and get started on our art project today. Okay, so to begin our project here, creating a flower with oil pastels, I wanted to talk to you real quick about value in art. And value is how light or how dark a color is in art. And if we look at this flower that I've drawn, you can see that there is this kind of dark purple and this light purple. And I've created a lighter value with this purple by adding white. When you add white to a color to make it lighter, it's called a tint. So we're going to be working with two colors. So the color that you want for your flower, and then white. So we're going to add white to that color to create a tint. Now you don't have to do purple like I did with this flower. You can maybe look at the flower in front of you and choose to do the same color as the flower. It's kind of up to you. But first of all, you're going to grab a blank sheet of black paper and then your white oil pastel. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you how I'm going to draw my flower, but you can study the flower in front of you and choose to draw the shape of the flower that you see in front of you versus my flower. But for the most part, how I like to draw flowers is first off, I start off with a simple circle. And then once I do a circle, then I add like a little wiggly line down the middle. Okay, and so that's the center of our flower. And then for my petals, I go up, wiggly line, down, up, wiggly line, down, up, wiggly line, down. Again, most things in art are shapes, simple shapes, and lines. So if we can think about the petals as a type of line, then we'll have a better experience drawing it, okay? So again, up, straight line, wiggly line, and down. Up, wiggly line, and then down. And you want to make sure your flower takes up most of the paper. So nice and big. One other advice I have for drawing big is to think about moving your whole arm. If you're just moving your wrist, you can't really go that far. But if you're using your whole arm, you're going to be able to take up more space on your paper. Okay, so if you need to pause the video and draw your flower first with your white oil pastel, feel free to do that at this point. Otherwise, I'm going to keep going with the next step. The next step is I'm going to fill in each of the petals with a color, and I'm just going to go ahead and replicate this flower here. So I got purple oil pastel, and I'm going to color it in. Okay, and you kind of have to hold your paper down in order to really rub the oil pastel so it turns out nice and dark on your paper and covering most of the surface. You have to really hold down your paper. One thing you can think about doing is forming an L with your hand. If you're left-handed, it kind of looks like an L. If you're right-handed, it's like a backwards L. But you place your hand down like that, and it should keep the paper from moving around too much. Okay, so you're just going to color all of that in. I'll do this one over here. If you are unable to hold it down, one other thing you can do is to tape your paper down. That's fine too. You can do that with blue painter's tape, or even the beige like drafting tape. That's okay. It won't rip the paper as much. I just would say be careful about using like Scotch tape, because that might rip the paper. Okay, so we've got some petals done. I'll do this last one here. And then once you've colored in most of your petals, what you'll do is you'll go back and you'll grab your white oil pastel, and then you just press and kind of rub on top. And what that will end up doing is it's going to create a tint. It's going to make that purple a little bit lighter. So it's going to make it look like light is hitting the flower. Okay, so that's just an example of what that looks like. I'm going to keep going and filling in my petals. But if you feel like you get the idea and you want to just go ahead and get to work, that's fine. And you can go ahead and just stop the video at this point. If you want to color along with me, then that's fine too. And I'm just going to keep going. Okay, almost there. Gosh, I'm getting a little bit of an arm workout. Woo! If your fingers are getting tired, sometimes you gotta stretch out your fingers. Maybe do some stretches. Because you're pressing down pretty hard at this point, coloring it all in with the oil pastel. All right, we are at the final petals on the outside. And remember, this whole project is kind of about going slow. Really taking the time to look at something small like a flower, right? So don't rush through this. Maybe put on some good music. Just enjoy the process of drawing. Georgia O'Keeffe was all about taking the time to consider the small things. Okay, here we go. Last 2 petals over here. Okay, and then we have this one. Last petal. So again, what you can do at the very end is take your white pastel, oil pastel, and just go along on the inside of the petals and give it some highlight. Highlight is where the light is hitting an object the strongest. So we're just giving a little bit of highlight, creating some tint by adding white. Okay. And there we go. Good job, everyone. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed making your very own Georgia O'Keeffe inspired flower today with me, and I look forward to the next time we make art together. Bye for now.